Very good.
Very good. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar, Operationalizing the UAI Act, the Role of Standards. I'm Elena Maran, Global Head Financial Services and Responsible AI at Modulos AG, and I'm joined today by Andrea Basso, CTO of WIPO Technology, who will help us understanding this crucial topic. As an organization, given the complex landscape of standards with different standardization bodies issuing different standards, you might be wondering, well, when I'm faced with the governance of AI and the challenge of aligning myself to the emerging global regulations around AI, like the UAI Act, how can standards come to the rescue? Well, Andrea will delucidate us, taking us into this journey to explore the standards, and hopefully we're going to have a very interesting chat around this. At any point in time during this webinar, you can post your questions in the LinkedIn chat. I will be monitoring that, and at the end, I will leave space for your questions. But without further ado, please welcome Andrea Basso. Well, there's no better person than Andrea to introduce Andrea himself. So, Andrea, the stage is yours. Tell us a bit about yourself and your experience around the standard.
Sure. Well, you know, I've been working on AI since I think 1993. So I passed all the winters and summers of AI, and now I'm back mainly active in the standards. In fact, I am vice chair of P3301, IEEE P3301, that is on AI architectures, and I'm also active in P7003, consideration for algorithmic bias, and I am the task force leader for compliance in P7018, that is a new IEEE standard related to trustworthiness and security of pre-trained AI generative models. So, Elena, maybe I can quickly give a glimpse on, you know, why standards are important, just to support your statement. So maybe I have a few slides. I can go over. So if you agree, maybe I can do that, and that is of help also for the our community. Okay, so
yes,
let me share first of all the material here. Here we go. And here is where I want to go. So, you know, first of all, there are several kinds of standards. There are international standards that are quite mature, provide the rules, provide the how, in particular for AI, provide the how on how legislation, on how several, you know, laws developed in several countries can be implemented. There are then other forms of technical reports and technical specification that actually has been used in AI in the past. The technical reports and technical specifications for, in particular, in the medical space. So that is an important distinction. What are the benefits, no, of AI standards? You know, somehow they give confidence and insurance that somehow your system as a company, your system meets some predefined requirements in terms of reliability, ethical aspects, performance, and so on. And this is somehow a facilitation for, you know, the market access, the trade facilitation, because as we are seeing, there are several approaches to AI in different countries, in different continents. And standards somehow are able to make a bridge, in particular if they are harmonized across all the planet. And this has, of course, you know, an effect of risk mitigation and liability management that is very, you know, very useful. So that is somehow what I wanted to say, and a bit of the standards. Maybe another little thing regarding particularly the AI standard. We started a few years ago about social principle. The focus really at the beginning was there, but now we are really focused on companies, on the business, on how to make this operational and in support of the AI business itself.
Thank you, Andrea. That was very helpful, especially for maybe part of the audience who's not that familiar with the standards. But can you be a little bit more specific in drawing a map of those standards that really fit in the context of the UAI Act? Because this is the question that is the most pressing on organization, how to align with the UAI Act using standards.
Sure. Okay, that is tricky in the sense that there are several standardization bodies actually working on that. Let me do a quick introduction on what you find in these different standards, and then we're going to jump to the map. In all the standards, can be NIST, can be ISO, can be IEEE, can be SENS and ELEC. You will find somehow some core elements. So you will have a part related to safety and reliability. You will have a lot of ethical considerations, consideration transparency and explainability, privacy and data protection, interoperability and compatibility, again, accountability and responsibility, ways in which you can identify and mitigate bias and fairness. And also an interesting characteristic of the standards is the notion of continuous improvement and learning. For example, we're going to talk, I think, in a few moments about ISO 42001. And that is actually, this notion of continuous improvement is really embedded in the standard itself. So if you want to just jump to the map, as you said, then I will scare the audience. Let me jump showing this map. That I tried to collect. This actually comes from the original picture. Comes from a document generated from AI organization in Australia. Some time ago, I updated here. But let's try to somehow navigate a bit the ISO map. There are a few key standards. You see that quite a bit here, but there are a few that are really very relevant. So the foundational standards of the 22989 and the 23053, they mainly define the concept and the terminology. These are essential when you start as a company to understand really the framework, to understand the language, the terms, how they're defined, what is an AI system, what is a machine learning life cycle, and so on. Then mainly I selected a few of them that are, I believe, are really relevant. The one that really are related to the life cycle process, and in particular 4201, that is becoming, I would say, the the equivalent of the 2701 for security. So will be a base standard from ISO that then somehow can connect to other standards developed for specific topics. Then following based on the 4201, definitely the 5338. Sorry about the numbers, but that is the way in which ISO organizes all the material. That is instead really related to the AI system lifecycle process. So goes into the detail on the life cycle. Then the 38507, that is on the governance. So you as a company, if you want to start understanding at least the ISO word, these I think are the standard that you have to look at. And again, I can go in detail, Elena, if you want, just to see a bit more how they work.
Thank you, Andrea. This was very helpful for the audience. What I will ask you is, you mentioned the importance of 42001 as the Bible, the foundation, let's say.
The foundation, I would say, yes.
In the eyes landscape. Well, aside from that, are there any other auditable standards that organization can already start using and getting certified against to prepare the compliance for the UAI Act?
Well, today, you know, really, the 4201, and if you go on the web and you look for 4201 certification, that is the hot topic. You will see a lot of offers. I would say, as of today, it is possible to do audits so that you get prepared for the 4201. There is as far as I know, not formal certification today, so that you can really, you know, get a stamp. Definitely, that is something that you will, as a company, if you want to be on the forefront of you know, the AI life cycle, compliant life cycle process, 4201 is the right way of doing. 5338 again is an addition related to the life cycle, and then there is that I forgot to mention before is the 23894 that is specific to risk management. Maybe I can say a few words about 4201 just to show the audience how this is structured and what are the components. It is a spec of 51 pages, so it's not scary, but somehow touches all the key element of AI. So let me jump on that. So it is relatively recent. It's something that has been you know, made official end of December. And is mainly organized in these topics. So the role of leadership, how you need to do planning, which kind of support you need to provide, and which kind of resources to make you know, AI activities effective inside the company. It touches the operation, how you do performance evaluation. And again, comes back this notion of continual improvement. There are then 4 annexes that are very important, because the first annex is Annex A, and is a management guide for AI system development, and it lists a list of controls that you need to go through to verify your compliance, so to be 4201 compliant. Then there is an annex, the Annex B, that is an implementation guide for the control, including data management processes. Then is Annex C that touches a bit the risk management aspect, but again, this is, I would say, an intro for the 5338. And then Annex D is instead, you know, more related to domain and sector-specific standards. So it's more a collection of references. And so, again, these are, I would say, the key components of the 4201. So the AI management systems, the AI impact assessment, the AI risk assessment, and data protection and AI security.
Thank you, Andrea. It really seems like aligning to the 42001 is a very good first step for organizations to start thinking about the UAI Act compliance as a whole. I would say it's a must, but it's not the end of the story. Right. In fact, at Modulos, we've taken the choice to support these standards to allow organizations streamlining their compliance to the UAI Act. But going explicitly to the legislation, we know that the scope of the UAI Act is to protect individuals and society from averting potential harms and risks stemming from a wrong usage of the technology. So is anything worth mentioning around the principles of the standards, the way to apply them, that goes in line with that risk-based, harm-based approach of the UAI Act?
Sure. I mean, and here I want to mention a bit the activities that IEEE is actually doing. And let me jump to that. You know, IEEE actually has a series that is specific on application of AI, that is the series P7000. And inside the series P7000, I would say that the standards that are very, very close to publication is the 7003 that has standard on algorithmic bias consideration. And I mean, I'm part of the working group here, so I need to be careful on what I disclose because the standard is not out. But I want to mention that the P7003 has a lot of good elements, I think, that may be of good value for estimating a bias, algorithmic bias, and in particular this notion of bias profile. The bias profile really helps in identifying the biases, limiting and putting boundary, understanding what is the unwanted bias, and also helps a lot developers in identifying and managing potential sources of bias that can arise in every step, in fact, of the AI life cycle. And instead of a very young standard, I would say we are at the very, very beginning, is the 7018. And the 7018 is related, again, on security and trustworthiness, but specifically for AI pre-trained generative model. And I will co-chair the task force on compliance, as I was saying before, that I think is the key part. Is the one that will give you a recommendation, an indication on how your pre-trained AI model, generative model, is compliant in terms of security, in terms of trustworthiness.
Absolutely, Andrea. Thank you for this overview. And at Modulos, we are absolutely happy of your affiliation with IEEE and your involvement in the standards that are absolutely crucial for the implementation of the UAI Act. Could you spend also a few words on the role of CENS-ENELEC, which is the European
That's it.
body, and how all these standard piece together in understanding how to operationalize in the UAI Act?
Nothing. You actually took the word from my mouth. I mean, the CENS-ENELEC, and we're gonna jump on that very, very quickly, is the key reference for the UAI Act, because mainly the CENS-ENELEC receive a mandate from the European Commission just to manage, the support for standardization for the EU AI Act. And it formed some time ago the CEN CLC JTC 21. That is the one responsible for picking and choosing and extending or adding standards in support of the EU AI Act. And here I have a list, in fact, of the standards that are now under consideration. So as you can see, there are few ISO standards, the 22989 that we mentioned in terms of defining, the concepts and the terminology. Similarly, the 23053 that is defining the framework, And here you see the 4201 that we already mentioned that will be very, very, very relevant. And regarding risk management, definitely the 23094. And you see, but CENELEC is also adding other components to the laundry list for getting compliant to the UAI Act. You see there is an AI risk catalog and management that is under discussion, the trustworthiness that is always very, very critical. Practically all the standards are contributing to this component, in particular the trustworthy IEEE, ISO. If you go back to the map I had before, there is all, I can quickly jump back if I can. Let's see. If I can go back, sorry if I go back and forth, but if we go back to this map, you see that in trustworthiness, there is the 24028, the 24027, 24368, the 82000, and more that are coming. Same thing, also IEEE, in the 7000 series as a series of contribution. From an EU AI Act point of view, I want just to be clear that here I'm not discussing, for example, the Japanese approach to AI, nor the US approach to this. Is really focused on the EU AI Act. Your reference is the CENELEC with the list that we had before. Sorry for jumping back and forth on this, but this is a January of last year, but is progressing as the standards in the different standardization bodies are also progressing.
This is very important to understand. Thank you for the very complete overview on how the different standard landscape piece together. Another topic that I want to touch upon, and you briefly mentioned, is given the importance that generative AI is now having for all organizations that want to progress with AI as a technology. I know that, again, you are representing Modulos in the IEEE standard P 7018 that is specific on trustworthiness of generative AI. Could you spend a bit more time explaining us how the working group in the standard is approaching the topic, what distinguishes generative AI from the more traditional AI in terms of risk, and why do we need a specific standard for Gen AI?
Well, in general, in predictive AI, you don't have this notion of hallucination. No, I mean, I find it always very, very interesting, right? Simply because generative AI, the name itself says that generates, right? And so this includes a variety of issues, no? Because it was recent in the news that generative AI model was giving wrong information about people, and that from a GDPR perspective, these are absolutely forbidden, and then you can see how many lawsuit OpenAI is collecting. I think there is a website that lists them in real time. So generative AI by its nature, so the technology of transformers, that is the basis of generative AI, manipulates information and may generate new information that is not guaranteed, in fact, to be true, no, in the sense that we intend in the usual way. And so from this perspective, in addition to all the risks, and all the consideration that you have, bias, trustworthiness, and so generative models require much more attention, and also much more attention from a threat point of view. It's relatively easy today to attack you know, a generative AI model, to twist it so that you know, it gives the information that it shouldn't give, or to give wrong information. So definitely requires much more attention, and also is much less deterministic. So you know, sometimes the answer that an AI generative model is giving depends a lot on the kind of prompt that you give to that. So the prompt engineering, it's a new area that is you know, developing as Gen AI is developing, that play a key role, in fact, in using these models. And also you know, generative AI is not necessarily generating a prediction, a number, a probability that then is used for some estimation. It's actually generating actual text, generating actual video, actual images. So direct impact no, to the overall. So it is content that and actual speech, by the way. And so these are, I would say, the key reasons why we there is more attention that need to be given to these systems.
No, totally. Thank you very much, Andrea. And before I ask you the next and probably the last question of this first part, I want to remind you on the audience that at any point in time, you can still write your question in the LinkedIn chat, and I will read those questions for Andrea when we finish the first part of the presentation. So, Andrea, I know I'm asking you to have a crystal ball, but I want to know whether, given your wealth of experience in the standardization field, you can give us a bit of a timeline when you expect that all the standards will be in place to allow organization to really give this operational spin to the compliance to the UI Act. Do you have a bit of sense for that?
Well, there is a lot of pressure because without this the standard in place, that, as I said, they represent a bit the screwdriver of AI. So it is the standards are the key elements to enable businesses, you know, to reliably do business in AI and be sure that they are compliant. No, and so they don't violate legislation in different parts of the world. There is a lot of pressure, and not only in finalizing the standards, and we are really working very swiftly to get them right. You know, we're talking about next year to have the 7018 already in a draft format, which is really very, very short time. But the other key aspect I think that we need to talk about is the management and the harmonization of all the standards, because there are several standardization bodies. I mentioned a few here, the ones that are relevant for the EU AI Act, but it is important to provide clear indications for the users, for the companies, for the businesses, on how to use them. Otherwise, their adoption would be complicated. And in my feeling, again, we are talking about 1 or 2 years before this thing get somehow stabilized and also commonly agreed.
Thank you, Andrea. This is very useful and very complete. Is there anything else we forgot to tackle and you would like to talk about to close this webinar today?
I think we touched the key point. We can maybe give a few takeaways. There are a few standards that are emerging into this. We talked about a few of the ISO standards that will play an important role. One emerging standard is the 4201. So if you want to, start ahead and look, and understand what does it take to become compliant, these are a good starting points, assuming that also you have a complete knowledge of what are the definitions of the concept and terminology related to AI, and also the framework that is, again, covered by the 22.989, the 23.053. Then definitely I would suggest to look also at the 5338 because it gives more details about the AI life cycle, and the 23.894 for the risk management. Regarding instead all the ethical parts, the bias and other components, there are interesting standards emerging from IEEE. I mentioned 7003 and 7018. And by the way, there is actually a GRC, the European Commission actually did a study, a preliminary study on that. It's available, it's for free, about the artificial intelligence standardization landscape. And that is a document that somehow compares some of the standards, indicates what are the strong points and the shortcoming. It's not completely up to date because these standards are in development, but this can be a good starting point for looking at that. In addition to that, also consider that different standardization bodies are taking also interesting initiative. There is this one from IEEE that actually allow you to access for free the standards on AI ethics and governance. This is something that started last year. And so I would definitely take advantage of this IEEE GET program. And in addition to that, also there is another program that is called IEEE Certified that actually allow a company to do an assessment. So an ethical profiling and an assessment on what is the status of the company. Another thing that I really want to mention is this one. It's how important are the AI governance platforms, because they are a systematic way of addressing and reducing the amount of headache you can have. Because imagine as a company that I get this pile of standards, you need to read, you need to understand them, and then you need to generate the controls, make sure that these controls are fine. But thanks God, there are a lot of startups, including Modulos, in fact, that developed very interesting AI governance platforms that do this for you in great part. And as far as I remember, actually 4201 is available from today on the Modulos platform. There are several players today, but they are really key, I would say, to address the complication of navigating legislation on one side and application of standards on and I consider them like an acceleration of the adoption, because these platforms tend to be on the front end. They're definitely always very updated on all the legislations, and they are multi-legislation support. So UAI Act, but you may get other legislation that get included very, very quickly. So I really think that these platforms, they can play a pivotal role and acceleration role in the adoption of AI, because they address very, very important issue.
No, absolutely, Andrea, and thank you for making a mention of this. At the end of the day, the standards are useful in the measure that they can help organization operationalizing something and implementing something. And platforms like Modulos actually contribute to the usability of the standards because we are collecting the requirements of the organization and seeing how the organization can really use this standard in concrete business scenarios. You were brilliant in delineating all this landscape and elucidating the audience around how all the standards piece together in helping organization align into the regulation. And this is why at Modulos we also put a very great effort in codifying these standards and in continuously communicating with auditing companies in a way that our standards are verified by auditing companies and can be used directly by organizations to streamline the process of complying with the UAI Act. So I think this was absolutely very useful. And for any closing remark, please feel free to make your statement, Andrea.
I think the future of AI is here. Legislation is a key element, and thanks God there are solutions on the table, and in particular this platform that make industry life much easier.
Thank you, Andrea. So now if you stop sharing the presentation, I will just show to the audience where they can eventually contact us for any further question on the topic. You can direct any question at contact@modulos.ai, and we can direct the question directly to Andrea. Please feel free to visit our website, www.modulos.ai, and connect us on LinkedIn.